Today's conversation is going to address how to make decisions in these tumultuous times. The kinds of decisions that we're having to make now, for many of us, are unprecedented, both in our own lives and in the lives of those we know. The ways we used to go about making decisions, suddenly we have lots of questions about. What can we trust? And the times that we're living in, what is this that we're going through? So my goal today is to give you some perspectives and ways of seeing the situation that you're in, that I'm in, that we're all in, that will give you access to decisions that will truly be helpful for you as you create your life moving forward. So hi, I'm Daniel Piatek. I'm a spiritual mentor, intuitive guide, and founder of the Academy of Practical Mysticism. A practical mystic dares to see all of life as collaborating with them to get free of fear and the unresolved trauma and conditioning of the past, so that they can embrace their own unique genius, the spark of the divine that they already are. So, now from the perspective of the practical mystic, we're going to explore how to make decisions in these tumultuous times. So making decisions. How have you typically made decisions in your life? Is it something you've ever thought about? So we're each a little different in how we put together the different pieces that might go into making a decision. What are other people doing? What are other people saying? What have I been taught in the past? What do I think is the right way to do this? What's worked for me? Ask certain people in your life that you've come to trust. Listen to certain voices. Look to certain directions. And oftentimes the decisions that we make are made not so consciously by us, based on the kinds of information that we take in or the people and circumstances that we have in our lives and that we listen to with regularity. So we're now beginning to navigate in times that are interesting. So the effect of postmodernism, meaning the seeing and the appreciation for different voices, different points of view, different experiences of life, has brought us a tremendous amount of being able to appreciate the value that each unique perspective brings. But one of the downsides of that movement that's moved through the culture is that we now come to a place where it's very difficult to know which voices, which perspectives know more about what things. In a world where we've tried to make all things have value, it's come to be that they all basically have the same value. You have every person on the planet that has access to a computer and the internet having a voice. We have this multiplicity of different voices that each is operating in a sphere where it's the right thing to do for each of them to have their own truth. And like everything else, there can be tremendous benefit and tremendous difficulty that comes from that. So one of the things that we found ourselves, one of the places we found ourselves in this world is we live in a world that in essence is factless. What's the facts? What's true? How do I know what's true? How do I know what the facts are? And because of this phenomenon, among other things, including the fact that there are bad actors out there that are actively, for whatever purposes, putting out disinformation, but that's not, by and large, necessarily the whole of it, nor most of it. We're at a time where we've come where everybody has a voice, and we've come to appreciate different voices. We've, over many years, I remember back in the early 90s, hearing this corporate speak and using these words and people using words and what the hell do those words mean? I don't even know what that means. Sounds good, but I'm not sure what it means. So when we're trying to make decisions for ourselves, even in the best of times, when there are decisions that have great import in our lives, it's challenging. But when those decisions are happening in ways where we've never had these kind of problems before, and we're in a world where we don't even, how do I even begin? So remember, at the beginning, I introduced practical mysticism, and I said this is an approach to life that dares to look at all of the content of life as here to help me to free myself from everything that keeps me trapped and small and believing in limitation in myself and in the possibilities in the world, so that I can begin to live more and more the divine spark that is in me, what I call a unique genius. So we'll come back to these in a few moments. Now, the other piece of the question that we're exploring today is about these times that we're living in. These times. What are these times? And what the hell happened a little over 2 years ago, right? So these times that we're living in, there are many people from many different perspectives, from many different times in history, that have spoken of these times that we're now entering in. One of the ways I speak about them is call them the shift. And the other is an idea of a great turning, a great change that's happening on the planet. And we are in it. No matter how you look at this, from what perspective you look at it, you have to kind of look and say, wow, there's something major happening that I've not seen before in my lifetime, and it appears that hasn't been seen before in a long time. So the way that I am offering to you to see what's happening is that this has happened before. These kinds of things, when we've reached a certain point where the successes of the system, the organization, the whatever it is, the empire, when the successes that have been brought forward by what that new way of thinking and doing things has brought, the successes have become so much that they turn into a cancer, they turn into a malignancy. And that malignancy comes along with the success and eventually erodes and takes down the organism. So that something new, the next phase, the next outgrowth can begin to happen. So I see this happen in my work with individuals when they begin to leave behind an old way of being or an old way of seeing themselves. And that new way of being and seeing themselves and doing has not yet emerged yet. So we are in this time right now, which may be for most of us, people my age, I'm working under the assumption this will be the nature of the rest of my life, where we are in a time in between. And for me, in between times are the most amazing times, when you know what they are and you know how to work with them. Why? Why would I think that? I mean, these times are like, what am I doing? Where am I going? How do I function? I don't even know who the hell I am right now. I don't... For the human being, it can be quite a challenge. For the humanness of us, it's quite a challenge. But these times, they're kind of like a lawless time or a ruleless time, because the old way has gone away or is going away. And we're in this space where I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be. And in that place, there is a tremendous possibility for creativity there. Tremendous. Because the new has not yet appeared. We haven't created it yet. It hasn't created itself around us. So these times in between, I often call them our desert times in personal growth. We've left the old homeland, we're on the way to the new, and we're in this way in the middle of the desert times. Tremendous times when you know how to be with yourself, to take care of yourself, because they bring up a lot of fear and anxiety in us. And the practical mystic sees this as yes, this is here to help me because there is a tremendous amount of fear and anxiety that lives in my beingness that I carry from a past which is not yet finished. I see that unfinished past in situations where something happens and suddenly I'm filled with sadness. I'm filled with fear. Why do I wake up in the morning sometimes with terror? When our responses to life are just too much and we realize, wonder, what is going on with me? So, to walk through these desert times, we have to understand that the nature, the way that the human mind works is it wants to see, understand, quickly, sort it out, what do I do? We've evolved over eons of time to quickly know, assess, and see what it is that needs to happen so that we can survive. These desert times are full of a great deal of unknownness. So we have these desert time that we're in a world which is on a personal level, not just out there, but on a personal level, much more complicated and complex and unknown than maybe has been in our life or that we're used to. So to learn how to manage ourselves so that we don't quickly see, assess, figure out, and move forward, because that's oftentimes how decisions are made. And those decisions are going to be made on a tremendous amount of assumptions. And those assumptions are increasingly proving themselves to be wrong. Why? Because the world that those the set of experiences that we had that those assumptions come from is part of an old world which is disappearing. They may have worked not that long ago, but suddenly they're not working for us. And there's a reason for that, because we're trying to leave that world. There's much about that world. What do I mean by that world? I mean, look at your own life, the things in your own life, the nature of your job, how you work, the friends you're with, the kind of relationships you're with, how you think about yourself, how you talk to yourself all day long inside your head. The fact that day in and day out, you're afraid of this, that, and the other thing happening and your life's going to fall apart. This is no way to live. And yet it seems to be the way in which we've come to expect life to be. Constant, whether we know it or not, worry, fear, and concern. And we're moving into a world which will be very different than that. But that world that will be very different than that is going to be based upon the decisions that we make now in our life. So as we begin to make decisions now, I'm going to ask you to embrace a position inside yourself which consists of two things: skepticism and curiosity. So first of all, what do I mean by skepticism? Skepticism isn't cynicism. It's not slathering doubt or I don't believe across everything. Skepticism, there's two pieces to it. One is that everything that you take in, everything that your mind is even kicking out is like, I hear that and I'm going to leave it open. I'm going to dare to not come down on it's true, it's not true. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take it in. The second part of skepticism is, from a philosophical standpoint, is an idea that being certain about anything is impossible. You see? So do you see how that's built into this? And by embracing that as we go through life, we're still taking things in, because a cynical attitude or a slathering doubt across everything keeps life out there. No, I'm saying let it come in. Let our being hear it, register it. And then just hold that in I'm not, okay, neutral. And then practicing with ardent fervor, curiosity. Curiosity. What is this? I want to know. I'm interested. And what I'm going to suggest is become curious not about facts. I need to know what are the facts? What are the facts? Because facts are something that's out here. I spoke at the beginning about this, about the very unreliable nature of the whole world and idea of facts is right now. And become curious about the question of what's best for me, what's best for me, what's best for me. Me and mine. What's best for me and mine. So when we let things in and we become curious from the perspective of what's best for me and mine, and we're opening up more to the world and letting it in, there is something in us that then can begin to respond. It's that innate divinity, the innate wisdom of the body, the deeper wisdom that lives in us can begin to speak to us. Letting life in this way. So then, if we're not using facts or my belief system or my way of seeing things and way of doing things, if we begin to let go of those a little bit as our guideposts or our way to make our decisions, what are we going to use then? So there's a couple different answers, but I'm going to speak about one in particular today as we finish this up. What to use as our guidepost? Our values, our own values. So many of us, unbeknownst to us most of the time, are operating under a set of values which isn't really our own. It's been given to us. It's been inoculated into us by the families we grew up in, where we were educated, the community, the traditions of our place or our people, etc., etc. The kinds of media and information we take in is continually inoculating us with values. And one of the gifts, I think, for many people about these last 2 years and the world shutting down and having our lives really greatly disrupted is the opportunity to reassess and to realize, yeah, that thing I used to do or that way I used to do it or this, that, the other thing, or how this was done, I think I like what's happening better. I think I like not having to da-da-da-da-da-da and do this all day long. And we've had a chance to reassess because life very suddenly came and said, boom, not doing it this way anymore, you have to do it this way. And I'm not saying that new way was better necessarily. It's part of why I like travel so much, is like you pick up and you land yourself into another place and culture. And if you allow yourself to kind of go into that culture a little bit, it's like suddenly it gives you a perspective to see how it was you were living just last week. Because the people here don't do it that way. They do it differently. So what is it that you value now? What's important to you in terms of how you spend your time, who you spend it with, how you treat yourself, how you treat others, how others treat you, what you do with your money, how you look at money, how you look at authority, outside authority. What do you value now? And you see, if we embrace our experience of being interested and curious in life, because let's say we have a decision to make. I'm curious, I don't really know what to do here. So instead of pulling back in fear about making the wrong decision, reach out, I'm curious. What are some options? What could I do? What's possible? Being curious, being open, taking it in. As you're taking things in, let it in without needing to, and this takes being conscious and aware, decide yes, no, right, wrong. So many times we get exposed to something and something in us just says, nope, Nope, won't work. Not for me. Like, hold on a second, what was that even? Come back over here. Arm inside my head that just did that. Come back over here, bring that over here. I want to take a look at it. Maybe there's something here for me. And bring it in and let that sit with what's important to you now. What's important to you now, because what's important to you now may be different than it was a year ago, and it may be very different than it was a couple of years ago. And dare to allow yourself to start making decisions from what's important to you now. As I said earlier about the times that we're in, we are in this transitional time, and it will go on for a while. But these decisions that we make now about how we live our life, who we are, is, I'm going to suggest, creating what will be the next version of being human on planet Earth. It's big. Because the old ways are falling away. The new ways are not yet here. Where will they come from? The decisions that you and I and the rest of us are going to be making now. With who we are, how we be, how we spend our time, what we do, etc. So those values that get pushed up on by when we look out there at those other people or that authority that we don't like, instead of continuing to give them the authority, bring the authority in. This is important to me. I have a decision to make here. I'm going to at least contemplate seriously acting from my values as I make this decision. At least contemplate it seriously. So, how to make decisions? Be curious, be open, stay out of the world of facts, come into the world of your own values, and at least consider acting from what your deepest values tell you is the right thing for you to do. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for considering this, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.